Once the tank has been set up and operating, it is best to let the system age for a week or two prior to obtaining your stock. As with any livestock, it is important to select a good quality stock. Young fish, known as fingerlings, should be purchased from a reputable producer and examined for health and appearance. You should purchase only the number of fish that your grow-out tank will adequately support at market size.
Tilapia can be produced continuously in one tank. However, the preferred way to do things is to have several tanks so that you're harvesting off of one tank for a portion of time, draining it, starting to harvest off a second portion while you restock the first one, and have maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of these tanks to be continuously harvesting on a weekly basis.
Once the tank is stocked, you will need to establish a feeding routine. Feed comes in a variety of types and it will vary in form, size, protein content, ingredients, and cost. The objective is to raise the fish to a marketable size as quickly as possible. This is accomplished by providing them with a suitable, healthy environment and adequate feed.
When you're feeding tilapia in particular, and most fish, you need to feed them as much feed as they need, and that is often a percentage of how much they weigh. The size of the feed also makes a big difference. If they're smaller fish, they require a smaller pellet. If they're larger fish, a larger pellet, simply because it can fit into their mouth. Smaller fish grow much faster. They need a higher percent of protein in their diet, and much like younger kids.
Small fish consume a higher percent of their body weight than do larger fish. Young tilapia should be fed 20 to 25% of their body weight per day of fry starter feed. This should be given in 4 or 5 feedings daily. As the fish grow larger, you should switch to a grow-out feed. The exact amount fed should be based on the size of the fish at the end of each month. Feeding is the best time to observe the overall vitality and health of your fish. A poor feeding response can indicate problems with water quality or fish health. If their feeding response is poor, reduce the feed rate until the cause is determined and addressed. For assistance, contact your local extension agent. Feeding can be done by hand or by using automated feeders. Your choice should be based upon the reliability versus the time and labor needed to regularly handle this chore.
There is a cost difference from the higher protein feeds. They're much more expensive. The lower protein feeds for the adult feed generally comes in a floating or a sinking type pellet. The floating feeds are generally used by the smaller farmers so they can have a good way of observing feeding activity, gives them an idea of the health of their fish. The larger farmers generally use a sinking feed because it's less expensive, and they utilize an automatic fish feeder, which brings out feed in a small quantity. With such a large number of fish, there's little chance of any of that sinking feed getting to the bottom and being lost in the mud.
Regardless of which method is used, it is important not to overfeed the fish. Providing the fish with more than they can consume will not only waste feed, but can overload the biofilter. The feed should be properly stored in a cool, dry area to prevent mold and spoilage. Spoiled feed is harmful to the fish.